Welcome to the Digital Flight Podcast, your flight plan to the evolving digital economy. How do digital trends impact you, your organization, and your industry? Deep dive into these questions with Dr. Brian Lambert as he helps you avoid the turbulence and explore the highs and lows of transformation, innovation, and execution.
Real quick, one quick favor to ask from you. There's one simple way that you can support our show, and that is by hitting that follow-up button on this app you're listening to this show on right now. The only free thing I'll ask from you is that you hit the follow or like button on this app. That helps us more than I could articulate, and it really allows us to keep doing what we're doing here. I really appreciate it.
Digital Flight 71, runway transformation right, cleared for takeoff, dynamic 220.
Cabin is secure for departure.
Fasten your seatbelts. The Digital Flight Podcast takes off now.
Hello, digital pilots. Today we're taking a flight back in time to an ancient land filled with heroes and monsters and gods. So let your imagination soar as I tell you the tale of Icarus and Daedalus. Once upon a time in Greece, there lived a brilliant inventor named Daedalus. Daedalus was so clever, he could solve any puzzle and build things no one else could even dream of. But our story begins when Daedalus finds himself in a bit of a pickle. Uh-oh. He and his young son Icarus were trapped on a tiny island by a powerful king who didn't want them to leave. But Daedalus, with his bright mind, had a plan. He said, "Fear not, Icarus, for I will build us wings made of feathers and wax, and I shall fly away like birds." And so he did. Daedalus crafted two beautiful sets of wings, one for him and one for Icarus. Before they took off, Daedalus warned Icarus, "Listen carefully, my son. We must not fly too low, or the dampness of the sea will weigh down our wings. And we must also not fly too high, or the sun's heat will melt our wax on our wings." Icarus nodded, excited about their adventure. And so they spread their wings and leapt to the sky, flying over the ocean free as birds. It was very thrilling for Icarus, the cool breeze, the warm sun, and the endless blue sea. But in his excitement, Icarus forgot his father's warning. He soared higher and higher, chasing the sun, feeling unstoppable. Daedalus called out to him, "Icarus, my son, come back down." But Icarus didn't listen. He flew too close to the sun, and the heat began to melt the wax on his wings.
Oh boy.
And then, with a heart full of fear and regret, Icarus fell from the sky down into the sea below. Daedalus flew down after him, but it was too late. Icarus had disappeared into the waves. The story of Icarus and Daedalus teaches us a valuable lesson. It reminds us to listen to those who care for us and remember that we have limits, and also, more importantly, balance our dreams and our vision with caution.
Captain, this is F.O. Taylor. Please clarify what that has to do with digital transformation on our in-flight checklist. Over.
Good question, First Officer Taylor. This aviation story has a point, and it's meant to teach us, to help us grow wiser and stronger. I love this story because it's about learning new behaviors and challenging ourselves out in the open for others to see. In fact, it's quite a public failure to fall from the sky and end up in the ocean. The story of Icarus and Daedalus captures the very essence of human ambition. It's the struggle with innovation and the consequences of overreaching our limits. Icarus and Daedalus attempt to escape from Crete with wings crafted by Daedalus, and those are made from feathers and wax. But despite his father's warnings, Icarus flies too close to the sun, leading to his fall into the sea and death. This vividly illustrates the dangers of hubris and being too proud, and the importance of heeding wisdom and limitations, especially in the face of discoveries and challenges. It's a timeless reminder that learning and innovating come with risks, sometimes public failure, and sometimes it can be tragic. And that's the part of pushing beyond the known boundaries, is being smart and also listening to those around you.
Digital Flight 71, Transformation Tower. We are charting a course through the digital transformation environment. Your guidance is needed to avoid pitfalls and seize opportunities. Respond, over.
Roger that, Transformation Tower. We're going to explore some very important aspects of human behavior and culture in order to reach our final destination safely. Over. And to help us do that today, I have a co-pilot. I'm thrilled to have Allan Mills join the flight today. Allan is a beacon of transformation, leveraging his diverse expertise to foster high-performance teams and personal mastery. He has a rich background as an inner matrix systems trainer and an enterprise transformation consultant. Allan stands at the forefront of enabling professionals and leaders not to just meet but exceed their aspirations. As an inner matrix trainer, Allan trains personal mastery. Everyone has a particular potential, and few actually realize it. Allan understands the inner game of performance so that people can realize their potential. He applies neuroscience, psychology, and philosophy to train, align, and rewire the emotions, the strategies, and the nervous system to create real-life results. He's got a fascinating career with significant achievements, including facilitating enterprise transformations with major clients like New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority and Lockheed Martin. Through his work, Allan empowers individuals and teams to achieve groundbreaking results, embracing collaboration, trust, and an ability to turn challenges into opportunities. Allan, thanks so much for joining us today. I would love your perspective. What does the story of Icarus and Daedalus mean to you as someone who's been on the front lines of change and systems thinking for over 20 years?
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me today. It's been a great story. I love that story. It makes me think about the Stockdale principle from the book from Jim Collins, Good to Great. And the idea is that we prevail in the end, regardless of the difficulties, while at the same time, we confront the brutal facts of reality. And from my experience, leaders and teams, they succeed when they have a vivid, powerful vision for the future. And they understand at the same time they have limitations and constraints. They work on it constantly to align to the vision and really feel it viscerally inside of them. But they use intuition to understand where they are and their limitations and bridge that gap from where they are right now to where they need to be to fulfill that vision. And unlike Icarus, you do not charge wildly off into the sun without a way to get there and ensure that they'll be successful. Anything you want to add to that, Brian? It's just a great story. Thanks for sharing.
I think for me, this idea of the human side of innovation and getting excited, I've been there. I certainly have been there and excited for the change, for the experience. And I've personally been lost in that before. And then I found myself, my emotions got out of line and I showed up and not exactly the best way to the team because I felt like I was seeing things that others were not. And I had a bit of a falling out with some team members around that. And I flew too close to the sun and I left others behind in that and didn't bring them along. And I think that's a big thing that I've learned in digital work or just change in general. It's this idea of bringing people along, and everybody has their own thoughts and their own perspective in that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so for really to manage the change and go through the change process, it identifies the change and it has challenges. It has the things that are going to be limitations and constraints. Is recognizing that's going to happen, but really create a vivid vision of what you believe the future is going to look like. And that includes the human side as well. What do people feel? How do they think? How do they work together? And those kinds of things. Make that vivid and so clear that it lights up your nervous system in such a strong way that you become emotionally resilient to any of the changes that happen. And a lot of times people create a vision or a dream but it's just a fantasy. They don't do the things that are necessary to really achieve something. Whereas the system I work with is so powerful within a matrix systems. It basically starts with creating the vision. It becomes something that touches your heart. You feel so strongly about it that you're going to do everything you can to make it happen. Then, because you've created this vision, it enables you to focus on that vision in a very clear way. So then you start doing things that are outside the comfort zone. Because in order to create something that's never been done before, you're going to have to do things that are you've never done before. So you have to start doing things that are beyond things you've done before. If you've created things before that you've done, you might have done it in a way that was building fear in a team. Whereas in this place, you want to build this inspiration, bring people along, create that inspiration. So you want to start looking at what things do I need to do? What steps do I need to take to make this vision a reality and become very clear what is it that is missing. At the same time, you want to stop things that are happening that, you will stop doing things that don't align with the vision. And that is both looking at the things that need to be done, but most importantly, what things have I done in the past, like you were saying, working with team members where I wasn't most effective? How can I become better team leader? How can I become someone on a team that really inspires everybody else? How can I build that inspiration? And finally, committing fully to that vision, making that vision imperative that I complete it. It's more important that I fulfill that vision than any temporary discomfort I have in terms of having to do that new thing that wasn't something I've ever done before. So to become that digital pioneer, you're creating something that's never been done. You've got to try new things and do new things and realize you've got to stop things that you've never done before in the past.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to remind you that we're exploring the cultural journey of digital transformation. Make sure to subscribe for this insightful trip. Thank you.
That's really an awesome point that you're bringing up about vision, Allan. I think one of the things that we can experience in this space is it's a bit ones and zeros. It's binary. There is no emotion and there's no feeling. And I know certainly from my own past that I believe that there was no real need to fully understand what people were going through because we have a strong mission and a vision. But I learned that if they don't understand that vision, they won't have the resilience to push through. You might have it, but you can't be like Icarus and fly to the sun by yourself. You need that team, especially in the AI world and the ever-changing world. And I'd love to unpack this a little bit. So what do you consistently see as you work with executives and high performers? What's something that kind of is a repeatable pattern in this area of transformation and change?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Brian. Because I think the key thing that's consistent for people that are successful in making change happen and getting results is a couple of key things. They create that vision. And a vision is not only the actual outcome that's going to happen, but what do the people feel as they go along? Do we talk about them having to go through change? Change is difficult. And nervous systems actually don't want to have change. They like to keep us in a status quo. And so we've got this primitive part of our brain and our nervous system that keeps us in this fight or flight. And so recognizing that and helping people go through the change in a way that they say, okay, I will have these moments where I will resist the change, no matter if it's a great change. It's the nervous system doesn't like thriving. It just likes to survive. So I got to push through that and help everybody else push through it as well. So I've got to create a vision, not only about what is the outcome from a tangible outcome perspective, but what is it the outcome we want to feel? How does a team look like? Make it vivid so you can actually create videos in the mind of people that it's like it lights them up. They feel so excited about it that they're ready to move forward and do anything they can to move in that direction. So you're guiding them and knowing that to go through a change, they're going to go through these emotional challenges, these emotional things, help them through that process so that they can come out the other end inspired and passionate and working everything they can to make this a success so they can commit to it fully as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I know in the last 15, 20 years, there's really been a lot more understanding of the human element, the brain science around this. You're mentioning the nervous system's response to these stresses, these changes. And I think that we move away from the idea of let's lay on the couch and tell me your feelings to this concept that as a human, you are in an environment that for millions of years, our forefathers and ancestors were in. And that's this idea of understanding the environment and the stimulus of it, and then how do you respond? And there's obviously the logic part, which, as somebody in the IT space, I lean on a lot. But there's also this, this nervous system response, which is one, it's the central nervous system that you're talking about. I know there's been a lot of advances there. And then there's the brain science piece, which is how does the brain as a living organism, how does it respond to learning and to challenges? And I think there have been a lot of advances in understanding the repeatable patterns of people experiencing a change.
Exactly. That's great. Because what I see, and I see this all the time, the people that can master their emotions and the nervous system and the people that get success, and I'll get a little bit into the brain science. So we've got this primitive brain that has been around for thousands of years, and it was designed to keep us safe. And we had the days when we had the saber-toothed tiger that was attacking us. We had to either fight or flight, flee or fight that tiger. So it was designed to flood the nervous system with energy so you could run and those kinds of things. So in our modern world, we don't have saber-toothed tigers anymore. We have email, we have all the things of the changes that are happening. What does AI and the digital changes mean to us, and how is that going to change? And the world is changing. So those become our saber-toothed tigers, and it's our nervous system. And so that's part of who every person has. Every person has this primitive brain, and it's got this part of our brain called the amygdala that's checking in, saying, is it safe or not safe? And it can calm that down and calm it down in such a way that we're able to calm that nervous system down. We can access what we call the more modern brain. And it's what we call the prefrontal cortex. It's the part of our brain that does all the reasoning, all the rationalization, creative thinking, those kinds of things. And once we can get past that amygdala and that fight or flight brain, we can access all of the wonderful things in our brain that allow us to do complex thinking and rationalization and things like that. So we can take that to those changes in the digital pioneers, because recognizing that, we want to make sure we have a systematic way to help people move through the change that's safe. They can recognize their part in the whole process, how they will be applying it to their vision in the future. And so now they can actually become part of the solution together and drive that solution together. So now it's like using brain science kind of systematically help people go through that process so that they will be part of the solution as a part of the team.
Yeah, you know what this makes me think of is a sports player who, like, the game is on the line in basketball and it's the last 10 seconds and they're at the free throw line. I've always thought about putting myself into those shoes, and I'm like, wow, the whole world's looking at me. I'm going to be out there for everybody to watch me shoot this thing, and they just nail it. And there's a lot going on in that you're making me think of. There's the fight or flight. There's the idea of having so much practice behind you. And then, like you said, the clear vision to win the game. And what do you think about, and what could be some of the biggest gaps between those people that are working on teams and individual focus areas on an IT project? What are some of the things that maybe are a gap between what they're working on and the idea of the vision as it relates to their own performance?
I love that analogy we just talked about with sports, because that's clear and people see that all the time, where, The people that are successful, like Kobe Bryant, used to practice over and over again. He said, practice boring to make that fun, because by the time you get to those places where you have to perform, you've done that in your mind. You've created that scenario in your mind 100 times before. And then you're out at it. It's automatic pilot. So the things I think are gaps is the leaders don't create that vision that's inspiring and clear. And it's so inspiring that it drives the energy of the team to fulfill every aspect of the vision. People are there to really drive whatever it takes to get that thing in place. And a lot of times people even come up with an idea of a mission and vision. It's almost like a dream and a fantasy, but they don't put the vision into a reality because they don't take the consistent, focused action towards accomplishing that goal in the long run and that dream. So it just becomes a dream that never gets done, or they go off and run off on Icarus on their own and do it. No one is going with them on the process. So part of that vision is who will that you become, and is an inspiration to the team and passionate and courageous. It starts with the leader to be the influence on the team. And then how do we help the team really become inspired and passionate and courageous and compassionate with each other, create the environment for that. And then what will I do every day to express how am I going to become in life? How do I change? How do I actually train that inspiration? And then become very practical. How do I set benchmarks that make sure I'm on track to make sure the vision is real? How do I make the vision so clear and inspiring that it makes others feel passionate as much as I do about it? And then how do I motivate myself, again, knowing about the nervous system and those days when I don't believe it's going to happen? How do I get back to inspiration? How do I train my nervous system to stay on track? And a vision of a major change can take a year, 2 years, 3 years, something like that. And there's going to be days I'm so charged up for it, and days I'm like, oh, this is going to happen. How do I keep myself going back to that and make sure the vision is more important than that temporary discomfort I'm feeling, and align to that? And how do I anchor the vision in the nervous system so it becomes imperative and it becomes my inner compass that I'm driving towards?
Yeah. The idea here is that change, you are going to have a response to it. You know what? It may, and most likely will not feel comfortable. And I think there's an understanding of the nervous system and the subconscious piece of this. But then at some point, I think there's also this idea of you have to make a choice. And I see this play out in a lot of environments where I understand the vision, I understand the mission, I love where I work. And for me to really push through this, it's going to make me uncomfortable. I'm good with that as well. However, I'm not going to really accelerate my learning and put myself through through all the uncomfortableness intentionally. I'm going to manage that, and it's just going to take longer. And that's a choice that people have to make. And I think I would love to hear your thoughts on this idea of blending that type of an environment and that technology focus with the business outcome, right? Because in business world, it's get there faster, more and more. And then, on the individual side, it's things like work-life balance. Let's make sure that we don't burn out. Is the AI the saber-toothed tiger that's going to eat me? How do I manage that? And I think there's a struggle that plays out, I know, in my own world on a daily basis around how much do I really put myself through to be uncomfortable, and then at what point do I pull back for my own mental health, things like that? What do you think are some of the techniques or ideas that as a top performer our digital pilots might want to think about?
That's a great question. I think that the key thing there is that when you're going through life changes and you're trying to stretch yourself out, again, recognize, again, that part of the nervous system it's trying to keep us safe. That whole thing of the amygdala and the primitive brain that's trying to keep us safe, it's trying to keep us the status quo. It doesn't want us to thrive. It says, oh, keep safe. And so that's going to happen, and just recognize it's going to happen, accepting it's going to happen. But then also take a vision for everything in it. Because like you said, there has to be a balance. The people that are pioneers have got to stay healthy. They've got to have good relationships. If any of those areas in other parts of your life aren't really on point, then you're like distracted and you aren't focused on really focusing the drive and the energy you need to take to get to that vision. So taking that time to take a vision of every aspect in life and making sure that you're getting the rest and the sleep and the energy's there and your relationships are on point in your life. And who is it the person I need to be? Do I need to be a compassionate person, an inspired person, someone that accepts people and things like that? And then how do I then develop that emotional resilience and become brutally honest? Become that self-aware person. At this moment, I'm feeling a bit of fear. Become okay with that. And actually, it's a counterintuitive, but actually feel the fear for a moment, because otherwise the fear is actually still going to control you. So feel the fear, accept the fear can be there sometimes, but don't be driven by the fear. Come back to the vision. Always keep coming back to the visions. And then keep focused on the vision as if it's imperative. It's so important to do that, when we're stretching ourselves and learning new things, we're going beyond the comfort zone. And when we're doing that, we're actually testing that nervous system and saying, hey, I'm going beyond this zone of comfort. I think can you stand it? And that's where you build that capacity of emotional resilience, and you keep expanding it out and keep expanding it out. And so we use the tool of intuition, which is when you're in the most calm and centered place, you can actually identify, okay, how am I going to bridge the gap between where I am now and be brutally honest with where I am right now, and how can I fulfill the vision given all the constraints and all the things that are happening right now? I'm totally committed to this vision, but I know I've got to have steps along the way to get there. So I use intuition then to make sure I really achieve that ambitious goal. So when I'm pursuing an ambitious goal, like a digital pioneer, you can't stay in that comfort zone. You're always trying to stretch out, but recognize every time you stretch the comfort zone, your emotions are going to go, nope, I'm in fear. I'm not going to want to do this anymore. So creating that and fulfilling that grand vision keeps us expanding those barriers until you actually fulfill that. And you're in the face of the fears and you're just okay with the fact that, hey, this is going to come up. I have a way of moving through it now.
What makes me think about is like a real life example of today. I'm thinking, and what this conversation makes me realize and think about is pushing the limits, trying to find this fine line between reaching for the stars and flying too close to the sun, and keeping my centered thoughts and also being aware of what's happening around it. And I actually think of somebody who's not mythical at all. He's a real world visionary, and that's Elon Musk and his work with SpaceX. Look at 20 years ago, I remember him getting called to the U.S. House of Representatives and basically had to testify on public space flight is a good thing. And our legacy heroes of the United States, our astronauts, were there saying it was the dumbest thing they've ever heard of. And there's no way a private company should be flying. And there was an interview that Elon Musk did where he said, it's really tough to hear where these guys that I idolized as a child are telling me that this is the dumbest thing ever and that it will never work. I'm really disappointed that happened, but you know what? I'm still going to do it. I'm going to push and lean in and revolutionize space travel. I'm going to talk about enabling life on other planets and becoming, as he calls it, a multi-planet species. And I think of him as a fearless leader. He has a vision, and sometimes he might be a little difficult to work for. But he's a bit like Daedalus crafting wings and feathers of wax. But he's also, there's another interview where he's walking around the space flight area out looking at rockets, and somebody's interviewing him. And the interviewer says, that's interesting, Elon, that on this spacecraft, you've done this. How come you didn't do that with this spacecraft over here? Just curious about that. And Elon thinks for a minute and he goes, you know what? That's a great question. We're going to change that. And they just kept going with the interview, and he had the team fix it based on the interviews, the trials, the tribulations, and they're public too. There's videos on YouTube, like they're blowing stuff up left and right. Just here goes another one, boom, here goes another one, explosion, explosion. And that happens when you're moving fast and innovating. But he learned from every single one of those. And I think these things obviously now today are like, oh, this is great. This is the Falcon 1 is the best rocket ever. It's got 20 engines. It's amazing. But I think it's easy to forget the journey and how public it was and how much challenge it was to take on a whole institution, everybody's beliefs, everybody's perspectives, and then this belief that there's no way that Elon Musk can pull this off. And it's almost like you get this feeling that people wanted him to fail. They were all lining up to have him publicly fail and saying, I told you that was going to happen. See, it happened again. He blew up another one. I told you. And I think there's a human nature element to watching the explosions happening and feeling like I told you. But there's also this human element that you're bringing up, which is the opposite, saying, I don't care what they think. I have a vision. And you know what? I've told them that we're going to blow up a bunch of rockets along the way. It's not like I didn't tell them. And you know what? We're learning from every one of them. This is what success looks like, is blowing up a bunch of rockets along the way. So I'm comfortable with that. That's what this makes me think of. I'd love your reaction to that. I'm like a little passionate about this idea of what's really happening as you innovate.
Yeah, no, I love that question. I really admire his innovation and his ability to stay with the vision. And what comes to mind is he's very clear about his ambitious goals. You realize that from the very get-go, he saw in his mind what was going to be happening. And he's great at translating that into very ambitious goals that people can get behind. The people that work with him are just so passionate about it. What will success really look like? And it keeps him focused on all the things that need to happen to get there, but also the practical steps that need to get there too. Because there are steps along the way, like you said, blowing up rockets, redesigning everything. He didn't just aim to reach orbit. He planned to make space travel affordable. So he thought about, okay, it's not just one thing. It's many things together, very complex. But by breaking the vision down into those achievable milestones, those benchmarks, and celebrating each achievement along the way, it keeps everybody focused and positive, realizing there is the way to succeed. And the way you setting those benchmarks help you innovate and stay on track. It's filled with challenges along the way, and developing the ability to pivot quickly and respond to setbacks is what keeps going. So the key thing here with a vision, it's the what. It doesn't mean that I know how I'm going to get there. When I define my vision, it's what is it going to look like when I get there? How am I going to feel? And how I'm going to get there is that intuition that says I bridge the gap between not having a rocket that works properly now to seeing one go to Mars. He's got this vision, and he's going to have to create multiple rocket designs, multiple strategies, and have the team keep going along on that vision all the way along the way. So the how it's going to get there, he doesn't even know how it's going to get there, but he knows for sure there's a what. And he's proven that already that he can make space flight affordable by defining the what and even going beyond what anybody believed he could do.
Yeah, that's exactly, setting clear and ambitious goals. And I think he also, if you think about Elon Musk in that way, he really created this culture of innovation. One of the things that I thought was genius was there's cameras everywhere. Remember space flight of old, it was like you have this control room and nobody's allowed in there. It's like some sort of secret thing. And then whatever the newscaster says is what we learned about. But here with SpaceX, they've got cameras everywhere. It's on every person. You're listening to all the radio calls. They're having like play-by-play announcements, like you're invited into this experience. And I thought it was genius because you can see the technology, you can see the screens, you can see the telemetry, you can hear the radio, and then you can hear how everybody works together to innovate and make this thing work. It's the culmination of these practices, this idea of learning from each attempt, blowing up rockets along the way. Now it's becoming almost routine to see this skyscraper of a rocket take off, and you're invited into that. And I think this idea of space exploration is perfect for our episode on the human aspect of exploration. So I'd say build that culture of innovation.
Yeah, I totally agree, because what he's doing is creating a learning organization, one that was always learning. And the one thing he's done is create a skilled, passionate team that is open for the growth mindset. They're growing together. They're surrounding themselves with people that have that shared vision and ambition. And the success of SpaceX is not just the triumph of Elon Musk, but the hundreds of engineers and scientists and technicians who believe in the mission. They invest in their training and development, they develop themselves, they create a sense of that shared purpose and commitment. And they're just it makes imperative that they achieve the vision, and they learn from each other. That's why they've created this learning environment, is that not any one person has all the answers. They have to learn from each other, especially as they're doing things that have never been done before. They have this experimental focus around, hey, where do we go together? And we have this shared purpose and commitment to achieve the what and create the how together.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so let's recap a little bit. So as digital pilots, we're talking about Icarus and Daedalus and this idea of balancing innovation with managing the risk. And then we're looking at the idea of Elon Musk as he embraced this journey, his ambitious journey to innovate. And there's this, playing out of this tension between innovate, push the limits, head for the sun, and at the same time, don't burn up your wings, don't fall into the ocean. And then looking at it from an innovation lens, saying, if we're managing a plan and we have a vision, and the plan includes blowing up a lot of rockets along the way, now this is part of the plan. And when you look at SpaceX and you look at Icarus and Daedalus and why they're pushing the frontiers, it not only requires that vision, like you've repeatedly said, and I love how we keep going back to vision, but it also means understanding that as individuals, we need that help to get there. And I think this makes us unique as a species, obviously. It's what gets us through. That's why we're still here. We didn't get eaten by all the saber-toothed tigers, is because we stuck together. And when you think about synthesizing that into our flight plan as digital pilots, we've uncovered this path that digital transformation is really paved with clear, ambitious goals. It's a vision that you have, but also this idea of embracing innovation, learning from failure, and being data-driven. And so the big takeaway for me on all of this, if I synthesize it into a big takeaway for our listeners, is balance your ambition with risk management. Understand that your ambition is going to push the envelope, and understand that you will be outside your comfort zone and that the team will be stretched. At the same time, be prudent about that. The overarching lesson from SpaceX and the Icarus story to me is there is this balancing act, and it really requires digital pilots to understand the vision that stretches, and also that they have to be rooted in the past lesson, understanding that they have to have a clear understanding of those risks involved, right? So that's a key thing that I think we are taking away, is this idea of ambition with risk management.
Yeah, summary on that is creating that vision for every area of your life that really becomes your future that you will fulfill. But also take those human aspects of it, becomes very self-aware of what's holding you back from achieving that vision and taking that consistent, focused action towards the vision in the face of all those things. So really understanding where are the risks, what can go wrong, what do I need to do about those things now to be proactive with them. And then when I do get off track, become aware of when I get off track and just keep recommitting to the vision. Because there's going to be days, and nobody who's achieved anything, there's a point where they say, I don't believe it's going to happen. So you just keep recommitting to that vision. And then use things like the tools that are available, like Agile and Lean, a growth mindset, and lean into the learning through experimentation. And so the vision gives you that vivid target of what you're going to achieve. It's going to let you know how you're going to feel, what you're going to do, the things you're going to achieve in life. But what you want to do is have the reality base that says, okay, I've got to be able to achieve that, knowing that I have a nervous system that is going to sometimes almost like hijack me. And how I get to my vision is I stay open-minded, I stay agile with a growth mindset, and I train inspiration, passion, resilience, so you can stay on the course to achieve that vision.
We will now be going through the podcast and serving your pioneering perspective. You may want to write this down.
So now I want to share with you, digital pilots, our pioneering perspective. I have a pioneering perspective on every episode, and your pioneering perspective today is to embrace your horizon. Embrace your horizon. This is a great call out for us digital pilots, because it's not just about looking to the future. It's about moving us towards that future and creating that future with courage, with innovation, and with the right mindset. To truly embody that perspective and pursue that horizon, we have to know what that horizon is. That's the thing about flying. You don't just go in the airplane and start flying around and then at the end wonder why you haven't got there to the destination, right? You have to have that flight plan that knows what your destination is, to have that vision and how that vision can move us forward and propel us. And once you have that end goal or that vision in mind, you can break down the barriers of the flight. And the thing about flying as the digital pilot is it's multidimensional. It's not linear. And that's why I love the idea of the agile mindset and growth mindset. As long as you're clear on the vision, you may be moving around to dodge the weather patterns, or you may be, having to go at higher altitudes and lower altitudes in order to get there. But when you embrace your horizon, it means being open to the lessons of flight and learning from those that have experienced this before, and then modeling what's happening from a groundbreaking perspective like SpaceX. As you navigate your path, embrace your horizon, be a guiding light, cultivate a mindset that marries bold ambition with the prudence of a seasoned traveler, seek out innovation, foster resilience, and then be ready to learn from both those triumphs and those setbacks. Your horizon is not just a destination, but consider it a journey of growth, a journey of discovery, and a journey to excellence. And I want you to let this pioneering perspective light your way as you plan your flight through the digital skies. So one of the things that embracing the horizon does, it creates this value for you as a professional and also for your team. Allan, what do you think about the idea of embrace your horizon?
As you grow and you work on personal mastery and grow in every area of your life, you're breaking down the barriers. You learn to go beyond your comfort zone, and then you stretch to a new comfort zone. And that new comfort zone is your new horizon. And so what that means is I now can have the capacity to work in an environment where fear can come up and I'm still charging ahead of my vision and it doesn't debilitate me. And then I find another thing I can do. So I'm always embracing beyond a new horizon until that horizon actually encompasses what my vision was in the first place. So I have to find those ways to keep pioneering, to learn, to grow, to make sure that I'm actually going towards that new horizon, new comfort zone, and achieving it.
That's right. And as we journey through those skies and we embrace our horizon, here's your call to action, pilots. First, find a way to challenge the status quo. Challenge the status quo. Just like the Daedalus crafted wings of wax and feathers, I encourage you to challenge existing conventions in your organization. Remember, innovation starts where your comfort zone ends. The second thing that you can do to take away and put into action immediately is to think about every attempt, every initiative, every project as an opportunity to learn. That means you have to pay attention and measure what's happening, but also be aware that evolution happens in the micro moments, in the day-to-day. just like SpaceX with every launch. It was a step closer to their horizon. And then the third thing is, and I think it's really important, not only to have that vision and to set your eyes on the horizon, but share that vision. Share the vision, just as the story of Icarus has been told for generations. Share your vision with those around you. Inspire your team. Ask them what they think. Imagine them to picture a world where this innovation is reality. And that's the moment that you're in as a digital pilot. When you embrace your horizon, it's more than a motto. It's a compass that will guide your ventures. As digital pilots in the realm of endless possibilities, the time to act is now. Chart your course, spread your wings, and soar towards the horizon. And that's the key, is to shaping tomorrow starts with what you decide to do today. Lean in, understand who you are, understand what's happening, and don't be afraid of the human element. There's a lot of science that will help you be successful. As we navigate the ever-changing skies of digital transformation, your insights and your experiences are invaluable to us. And that's why I want your feedback, to ensure that this journey is relevant and engaging. So keep the feedback coming, keep the ideas coming. They are essential for shaping future episodes, ensuring that each episode meets your needs. And as we depart today's digital flight, it's time for us to take that first step and cultivate that environment where innovation happens. Remember, every significant digital transformation starts with someone daring to try something new. Be a pioneer, embrace your horizon. So as we leave, it's time for the digital flight throttle up. And the digital flight throttle up is how we end our podcast. It's our call to action. It's our spark to ignite. Remember, the journey ahead is not just about reaching the destination. It's about the lives we touch. So as a digital pilot, remember to be precise, understanding the digital environment. Then be proactive. Remember to anticipate what's happening and push to your horizon. And don't forget to be pioneering. Embrace the change. So be precise, be proactive, be pioneering. Stay brave, stay curious, and above all, stay pioneering. We'll see you next time. Wheels up.
Thanks for joining us. To become a digital pilot and accelerate your journey, make sure you've subscribed to our show in your favorite podcast player. If you have an idea of what you want to hear in a future show or have a story to share, you can email us at digitalflightpodcast@gmail.com. You can also connect with us by going to digitalflight.pro or by sending Brian Lambert a LinkedIn connection request. Thank you for flying with us. We'll see you next time.